For 20 years, he'd been living the life of a tragic male lead. But then he suddenly realized his whole world was just some cliché novel. A tear-jerking tragedy where the main character is never allowed a happy ending. He either gets booted from his home by his own parents, or even worse. He gets robbed of his entire fortune by the female lead and her precious first love, ultimately dying a miserable and lonely death. But for our main character, finding himself cast in that pathetic role, he naturally refused to accept it. He wouldn't stomach such a ridiculous fate. If wiping out an entire family solves the problem, then that's not really a big deal, is it? It was getting dark. A quick glance at his watch told him the civil registry office was about to close up shop. Yet his fiancée, Olivia, was still a complete no-show. His patience was gone. His assistant stood beside him, panic lacing his voice. "Sir, we've located Miss Olivia, it seems. She's in Antarctica right now, watching the snow with sailors." He took a deep drag from his cigarette, flicked the butt away, and let out a soft sigh. If that's the case, then the Oliver family has no reason to exist anymore. He picked up his phone and dialed Olivia directly. "So a romantic trip to Antarctica with your little secretary is more important than our marriage." Hearing the word romantic, Olivia's tone immediately turned to solid ice. "Don't you dare judge others by your own twisted standards. Silas and I are completely innocent. Nothing shady is going on. It's not safe for him to go to Antarctica by himself. I'm his boss. What's wrong with me going along?" He couldn't hold back. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he burst out laughing. "You make a fair point. A grown man definitely needs a fragile little girl like you for protection, especially on our marriage registration day." Olivia caught the cold shift in his tone and grew even more irritated. "You don't even care if I'm cold or not. All you do is interrogate me." He didn't give her a chance to say another word. Click, he hung up. Her father had practically prayed to the gods just to cling to the Blake family. Too bad, his family was the wealthiest in all of Harbor City. The Oliver family, on the other hand, had missed every opportunity in recent years. Add to that their younger generation, filled with greedy fools, and their power had plummeted. If it wasn't for the old engagement arranged by the heads of their two families, this would be a different story. That and Olivia was stunningly beautiful, a perfect match for his tastes, and his grandfather absolutely adored her. Otherwise, the Oliver family wouldn't even have the right to breathe his air, let alone marry into his family. But since Olivia didn't know what was good for her, they could all just disappear. He signaled his driver to head back to the Blake estate. On the ride over, he told his secretary to cut off all business with the Oliver family. He also spent a while trying to chat with his system, but it just threw a clairvoyance eye skill at him before going dead silent. The system clearly thought it had chosen the wrong host. This man's destiny completely defied the heavens. He was practically a god, so he couldn't be bothered to care. Arriving at his mansion, he grabbed a cold Coke from the fridge. Less than 2 minutes later, the front doors were pushed open. But what he saw wasn't a person, but a floating text prompt. It was info on Stella. She was pursuing a man she believed was just some broke, ordinary doctor. The text said she despises him for being poor, but can't bring herself to let go of his handsome face and orphan status. So she's stringing him along while she hunts for a proper sugar daddy, the end result. Under her deception, the doctor loses his money and his heart, ending up completely alone with only $1 trillion fortune to keep him warm. Our hero took a sip of Coke and nearly spat it out. Good Lord, the male lead from some tragic novel was right next to him. That man was Peter, his best friend. They'd known each other for years. Peter's background was ordinary, but his medical skills were nothing short of a miracle. That's why, after becoming the family's private physician, everything Peter owned was top-tier custom-made clothing, though most outsiders would never recognize its true value. Seeing the strange look, Peter flinched, his heart skipping a beat. "Stop that smile. Don't you smile at me like that." The last time you smiled that way, a massive corporation went bankrupt 3 days later. The man just shook his head and tossed him a cigarette. All right, my bad. Here, consider it a peace offering. Peter reluctantly took the cigarette. Before he could ask a thing, his friend whipped out his phone for a quick call. I want all the information on Stella, right now. His assistant's reply was instant. Yes, sir, I'll have someone on it immediately. Hearing Stella's name, Peter's face changed slightly. He knew exactly how terrifying his friend's power was. The Blake Corporation he inherited alone was worth over $1 trillion. No one knew the true extent of his wealth, not even his own parents knew the exact numbers. Peter sat across from him, staring nervously. The protagonist lit his cigarette and sighed. Peter, I really never expected you to be this kind of guy. Peter looked totally bewildered. What do you mean? He blew a perfect smoke ring, his lips curling. I treat you like my brother, and you're out there acting like some kind of lapdog for a woman. A certified simp, you're 6'2", elegant and handsome. Put you anywhere, and you look like a proper main character. Why are you insisting on playing the part of a pathetic simp? Connecting the dots, Peter knew exactly what he was talking about. He rubbed his temples, returning to his usual calm. Don't misunderstand, Stella and I have true love. She's just testing me. He flicked his cigarette ash, completely unimpressed. Testing you? What kind of garbage excuse is that? I'm more curious about how you two even met. A nostalgic look washed over Peter's face. A happy smile appeared. A few months ago, my cat went missing. When I found her, her fur was clean and soft. Clearly someone had been taking good care of her. Just then I saw Stella feeding her. In that instant, she looked so beautiful, so pure. His friend almost gagged. He cut him off fast. Hold up, she fed a cat and you fell in love. Peter shrugged helplessly. Does love need a reason? You just like who you like. Looking at that lovesick face, our protagonist realized he had never seen anything like it. It's true, a doctor can't cure himself. Once you catch the simp virus, there is no medicine that can save you. And right on cue, Stella's detailed file arrived on his phone. Skimming the report, he thought to himself, kids these days play wild. It showed photos of her with sugar daddies, making his smile grow even wider. But the notes at the bottom sealed it. He handed the phone over to Peter. Stella has a history of abusing stray cats. You sure she was just feeding it? And not, trying to assassinate it. Peter stared at the phone. His pupils shrank. She's not that kind of person. It must be a mistake. Blake patted his shoulder gently. All right, fine, let me just take you somewhere. You'll understand soon. Better a short pain than a long one, he had to know. It was time to show his friend the cruelest reality of this world. Blake was about to crown him with a neon green cuckold hat. So bright and freezing it would chill him to the bone in the middle of this hot summer. On the way, Peter was a total mess. After hesitating, he finally called Stella. The phone rang and rang before she finally texted him back. Peter, babe, I'm home. I'm cooking. I'll call you when I'm done. Blake could practically see the green glow radiating from his best friend's head. Half an hour later, they were there. The two arrived at the Floral Joy Hotel. Peter's face was as dark as coal. He knew this hotel was a famous spot for couples. They reached the second floor. But Blake just pointed up. Peter's eyes widened in disbelief. What, she's? On the third floor, the second floor was for normal couples, but the third. That was VIP territory for people with unusual tastes. The collection of toys and wild activities up there was endless. Peter had desperately hoped that Stella would never, ever stoop to visiting the third floor with another man. Blake didn't even know how to comfort the poor guy. As they stepped onto the floor, a staff member rushed over and respectfully handed Blake a key card. Mr. Blake, here is the key for room 303. He took the card, flipping it. It turns out he owned the entire Floral Joy Hotel. How else could they get up to the restricted third floor so easily? Peter was burning with rage. Ready to kick the door down, but Blake called over two cleaning ladies. "Hey, old friend, do you have any female acquaintances working here by chance?" Peter's mind was a mess. He didn't even understand the question. "No, why?" Blake simply patted the two women on the shoulder and whispered to them. "Well then, these two smart, hardworking girls from poor backgrounds were personally hired by you, making an exception to the rules." He didn't explain further. Blake swiped the card, pushed the door open, and was about to charge in when they heard it, two people talking, accompanied by a sound. A rhythmic smack, 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 and the muffled cries of a woman. Peter snapped. He kicked the door wide open, but what he saw inside froze him like a statue. Stella, the girl he thought was weak and pure, was now exuding a dangerous charm. One that just screamed, "Step on me," and beside her, a chubby middle-aged man. As for their outfits, well, there wasn't much to talk about. Seeing Peter there, Stella panicked and tried to cover up. "Peter, why are you here?" Peter glared at the fat man with pure fury, his fists raised to charge, but Blake was faster. In 2 steps, he moved past him and delivered a flawless roundhouse kick. A beautiful, clean strike, right to the fat guy's face. That sent the man flying into the glass bedside table, where he collapsed on the floor in agony. Agonies, he casually leaned on the wall. "All right, your turn." Peter was a genius in surgery, but a complete amateur in a real fight. It was better he handled the heavy lifting first. Blinded by rage, Peter rushed over, raining punches down on the fat guy's head. Seeing this brutal scene, Stella trembled in absolute fear. "Stop hitting him. Stop, you're going to kill him." If she hadn't spoken, he might have forgotten she was even there. Hearing his chuckle, Stella's face went pale. She frantically tried explaining, "Don't hit me. Please don't, this has nothing to do with me. He forced me." He just waved his hand dismissively. "Don't be silly, I don't hit women." At these words, Stella's fear subsided slightly. But the moment his words left his mouth, the two cleaning ladies, who were now dressed as waitresses, burst into the room. Seeing Stella, they didn't waste a word. They marched right up, yanked her by the hair, and delivered a mighty echoing slap across her face. "Mr. Peter is such a good man, and you have the heart to betray him. If Mr. Peter hadn't taken pity on our miserable backgrounds, we wouldn't even have this job. Today, even if we get fired, we are getting justice for Mr. Peter." He marveled to himself. Women are absolutely ruthless when they fight. These two were throwing hands like they were trying to send her into the shadow realm. And honestly, the constant smacking sounds were incredibly satisfying. She had an incredibly slappable face. In just a few moments, Stella's cheeks were already swollen and red, but the two girls had no intention of stopping. They kicked her in the chest, sent a wooden rack flying, and pinned her to the floor and just pummeled her. He glanced at his watch, feeling a hint of fake pity. "All right, that's enough. I know you girls are grateful to Peter, but don't hit her too hard. Just beat her for about half an hour, that should do." Stella, whose mind was already fuzzy from the beatdown, nearly fainted from pure terror upon hearing this. She was already covered head to toe in handprints and bruises. If they really beat her for half an hour, she'd be clinging to life by a thread, if not dead. He waited until Peter had vented enough of his rage before finally pulling him back. He cast a cold glare down at the bloody fat man. Motionless on the floor, casually tossing his cigarette butt onto the guy, a mocking smile never quite reached his eyes. He'd leave it at this for today. As for his brother's emotional compensation, plus his own service fee for helping out, someone would come talk to them tomorrow. With that, he dragged Peter and the two waitresses out of the room. How could Stella ever have expected things to turn out this way? She crawled over to the bed to help the fat man up. "Boss Richard, I didn't know he was coming. That bastard dared to hurt you. We absolutely cannot let him get away with this." Richard glared, grinding his teeth in pure fury. He raised his hand and slapped her so hard she literally saw stars. "This is all your fault, you wretched woman. If it weren't for you, would this have happened?" Fuming, Richard stormed right out of the room. He didn't know Peter, but he knew the main character. This was a man who could make half the country tremble just by stomping his foot. Stella tried to pull herself together. Secretly vowing to take revenge on our MC and Peter, she put her clothes back on and opened the door and planned to sneak away. But right there at the doors, she ran into the two waitresses who had just beaten her to a pulp. The two girls looked at her, flashing professional smiles, but their eyes were cold. "Miss, your bill isn't settled." "You can't leave." Stella, bruised and shaking, could barely even speak. "Didn't Richard pay for the room?" The two girls just smirked at each other. "Miss, items in the room were damaged. You'll have to pay for them." Full retail price, of course. A bedside table, a wooden rack. And the carpet, total $12,000, cash or card. And yeah, the Floral Joy was a top-tier hotel, especially this floor. It was designed for the mega-rich, so that price, it wasn't a joke. Stella flushed with pure rage, shaking, but deep down she was terrified. She was scared of another beating, just looking at those two women. Made her legs feel like jelly, and worse, no cameras in the room. Trapped with no other choice, Stella went back inside to call her family for help. As the door clicked shut, she could hear them chatting and laughing outside. "Some side piece getting played this badly," one of them sneered. "Can't even cough up 12K. Guess she found herself a broke sugar daddy." Who knows what that moron was thinking, trading a diamond for a rock. Little did they know, the man they just insulted was Peter. And the person who gave him his key card, the hotel's general manager. A seriously big shot in the city. They'd never seen him bow to anyone. A guy like Peter had to be from another world. Meanwhile, Silas was in his hotel. All the way in Antarctica. When his sister suddenly called, he wondered why. Why would Stella call now? But hearing her sobs, his heart sank instantly. "Bro, I got beat up. They're making me pay $12,000 in damages and I don't have it. Can you send me the money?" Hearing that amount, Silas frowned. Without Olivia's money, he was basically broke. She was the whole reason he could even afford this trip to Antarctica. And right on cue, Olivia walked in, immediately noticing his worried look. Her heart ached seeing him like that. "Silas, what's wrong?" "Olivia, my sister's being bullied. A hotel is extorting $12,000 from her." "Can I borrow the money? I swear I won't ask again," seeing him so sad. Olivia's heart just melted. He just started working. How could he have that money? "A hotel in Harbor City. Don't worry, I'll just call Blake. He'll sort it out." After all, in Harbor City, nobody dared disrespect her. Olivia casually pulled out her phone and sent a text to Peter. But the second she hit send, blocked. That bastard actually blocked me. A wave of panic hit her. She quickly tried calling him, but her number was blocked too. Olivia gritted her teeth, absolutely furious. Over one tiny thing, that petty man is seriously ignoring me now. I didn't even do anything wrong. I just brought my subordinate on a work trip. I was worried he'd be scared of the dark, so we shared a room. We're sleeping in separate beds anyway. Unwilling to lose face in front of Silas, she just gritted her teeth and transferred the $12,000, but she missed something. After that transfer, she only had a few $100s left to her name. Back at the hotel, the money hit Stella's account, and her arrogance returned instantly. "You're all dead. My brother's girlfriend is the eldest daughter of the..." Blake warns the Oliver family. Just wait, he'll make every single one of them pay. Back at his place, he finds Peter in a depressed state, a sight that's both annoying and amusing. Blake doesn't hold back, reminding Peter he should have dropped his low-key act. If Stella had known he was Blake's private doctor, his best friend, would she dare simp? No chance. She would have been on her knees worshipping him ages ago. At this, Peter's pent-up anger explodes. Stella claimed she hated rich people. She'd said her brother's girlfriend was forced by a rich guy to leave him. That was her whole excuse for leaving her supposed brother, Silas. In an instant, Blake connects the dots. The girlfriend forced by a rich guy, that was Olivia. Just as he suspected, Silas was a master manipulator. He was the real homewrecker hiding in the shadows, yet he twisted the story to play the victim. Dealing with an opponent this pathetic was honestly an insult to Blake's intelligence. "I'll help you handle the rest," he tells Peter. "Just don't you dare go soft on me." Peter, though downcast, nods his head. "All right." Then he asks, "What about Richard? How are you going to deal with him?" A dark chuckle. Blake's reply is chilling. "You should be asking how many days he has left to live." He picks up his phone, calls his assistant, and puts his entire plan into motion. In the living room, Peter is still moping, trying to drink his problems away. Blake pats his shoulder and tells him to sit down. "Don't be in such a rush. We have guests arriving, the stage is set, the main character simply can't be absent." Richard, of course, didn't dare wait for Blake to come to him. He rushed over. He scrambled to the gate to beg, but before he could knock, it swung open on its own. The security guards didn't even glance his way, a completely chilling silence. They treated him as if he was nothing more than thin air. This terrified Richard. He felt like every single one of his thoughts was resting in the palm of Blake's hand. The head of security, Rex, eyed Richard like a predator that had just found its prey. They pat him down, confirm he has no weapons, and finally let him inside. Rex lets out a satisfied sigh, feeling fulfilled. He was finally doing some real work. Earning his keep for Boss Blake was better than taking a salary for doing nothing. Led inside by a servant, Richard forces a desperate, groveling smile upon seeing Blake. "Mr. Blake, please be merciful. Please just spare me this one time. Whatever your brother desires, I will absolutely make it happen for him." As he speaks, Richard drops smoothly to his knees with a well-practiced ease. Blake raises an eyebrow, a hint of genuine admiration shining in his eyes. "Not bad. What is professionalism? This right here is professionalism." This attitude of apology was truly on another level. Compared to the single phone call from the Oliver family, this guy had some serious hustle. When Blake says nothing, not listing any conditions, Richard panics even more. "Mr. Blake, how about this? I am willing to compensate $15 million for this." This was the absolute maximum amount of cash he could possibly pull together. He'd prepared it before coming. He knew that offending Blake was a death sentence. Without bleeding money, he wasn't walking out of here alive. Blake glances at Peter. He speaks leisurely. "Old Pete, you aren't exactly short on cash. Later, I'll open up a company for you. You can be the CEO of it. That way, no woman will ever dare to look down on you again." Richard quickly chimes in. Richard offered Peter a 10% stake in his company. But the man just smirked, waving a hand in dismissal. "Boss Richard, what's the point of that? A minority shareholder. That's just an errand boy, not a partner." "Never mind," he said coolly. "We don't need any compensation." Peter, a man of few words, sat quietly. Richard had heard stories about Blake's dark, cunning nature. But he never imagined the man would demand such a huge piece of his life's work. He had absolutely no power to resist, as if his strength had been completely drained. Even his will to live felt weak. I will transfer 51% of my company's shares to Mr. Peter. Tomorrow I'll hold the handover ceremony, seeing his total surrender." It would have been rude for Blake to refuse the offer, since Boss Richard is so generous it would be difficult to decline. When Richard finally stood up, his legs were shaking uncontrollably, just for messing with one woman. He lost more than half his entire company. He regretted it so much he wanted to die. He thought to himself that before leaving, he should have gone back and beaten Stella one last time. It was all her fault he was in this mess. If he couldn't live in peace, then neither would she, that was for sure. But just as he turned, Blake's voice echoed out, "Old Pete, since you're going to be the major shareholder of a company, it'd be a joke if you didn't have at least $30 million in your pocket. Don't worry, I'll transfer it." Richard stumbled, nearly face-planting on the floor, and forced a stiff smile. "Mr. Blake, for such a small thing, how could I possibly trouble you? Tomorrow, when we sign the contract, I'll personally transfer $15 million. To Mr. Peter, this was pure extortion, squeezing him for every last drop. Richard couldn't take it anymore. In that moment, he made up his mind. The moment he got back, he was going to absolutely butcher Stella. Peter had a face like frozen stone the whole time. He didn't understand why Blake was doing this. It definitely wasn't for the money, seeing right through his friend's thoughts. Blake flashed a wicked smirk. If I recall, the new intern at Richard's company. Is Stella, isn't it? Otherwise, she never would have gotten tangled up. With a guy like him, Peter remained cold, but a flicker of emotion crossed his eyes. Blake casually threw an arm over his shoulder. She's just one woman, what's there to be heartbroken about? Think of it like this. Everyone steps in crap. At least once, the moment he finished speaking, the sound of heels could be heard. Clicking down the stairs, two young women appeared, the one in front wore a light purple cheongsam, and the one behind, a cute pink schoolgirl outfit. Seeing them, Peter instinctively shrugged off Blake's arm. I'm going to head home. Violet escorted Peter out, then quickly returned, picking up a wine glass. She advised him gently, "Young master, drinking cold Coke is unhealthy." With that, she grabbed a room-temperature can from the kitchen. But before she could pour it, Blake raised his hand, stopping her cold. "Give it a rest. Drinking warm Coke in this weather is like drinking horse pee." He walked right over and pinched Violet's cheek hard. She let out a tiny yelp of pain but didn't dare fight back, only looking up at him with innocent eyes. It was a pattern. Whenever Violet did something to displease him, he'd always take it out on her. He then returned to his study upstairs, just as he finished model while Blake handled corporate emails, the system's voice chimed in his head. Ding. It congratulated the host for helping Peter turn the tables, saying he'd received a massive mystery reward. Would you like to open it? Since he was free, Blake replied, "Sure, pop it open." Congratulations, you have received $15,000 in startup capital, master-level martial arts, and forward-thinking business vision. Blake rubbed his temples and just shook his head. He makes billions fluctuate by the minute. 15 grand in startup capital. Was this system mocking him? At 18, he was the uncrowned king of the underworld. This man was holding the overpowered protagonist script. Even the most elite mercenaries get beaten so badly by him they forget their own parents. The system, however, sounded incredibly wronged. The angst-to-rich factor wasn't deep enough. So the rewards were limited. Don't blame me. He ignored it, listening to his assistant's progress report. The man said, "Mr. Blake, after cutting ties with the Oliver family, other businesses noticed the rift between you and them, and they have all turned their backs on the Olivers as well." Blake simply nodded. "Good, you don't need to bother me with the rest. For trivial matters like this, handle it yourself. Let the bullets fly for a while." What kind of melodramatic female lead did she think she was, playing these games with him? He would ensure her downfall had a very nice rhythm to it. After hanging up, his assistant was practically shaking. The man couldn't believe Olivia dared to do this. Even if Blake had ordered her execution, the assistant wouldn't have been surprised, but he never expected him to strike down the entire Oliver family. They were completely done for. Just as he put the phone down, a call came from Father Oliver. His tone was even more subservient than before. "Little Blake, I was wrong. We have known each other for so many years. Please leave the Oliver family a way out." In just a few hours, the Oliver family had lost nearly $15 million, and that was just the opening act. The smaller forces hadn't even had time to act yet. By tomorrow, their losses would multiply by 100. Blake was annoyed. "Boss Oliver, let's not act so chummy. You don't realize you were wrong. You just realized your family is about to be wiped out." With that, he hung up and blocked the number. Ever since their families arranged the engagement, Father Oliver had leached billions off of him. Relying on Blake's name, he had pulled in countless investments. Given his status, Blake really didn't care how greedy he was. Besides, marrying Olivia was his grandfather's wish. He didn't really mind throwing some pocket change their way, but for Olivia to pull a stunt like this, There was no way her father wasn't involved. Now that the water was rising to his neck, it was far too late to be afraid. That night, Blake called his parents and briefed them on his recent plans. Upon hearing about the Oliver family's shameless behavior, they ground their teeth in rage, telling him to completely annihilate them. The next morning, after a whole night of the system trying to persuade him, it still couldn't change his mind. Finally, it gave up. Fine, fine. Do whatever you want, host. If you don't want to find the angst male leads, then don't. As for Blake, he decided to visit Richard's company to check things out. The moment he arrived, he instantly drew everyone's attention. An extended luxury car wasn't necessarily rare in Harbor City, but a license plate with all sixes was. The place was exclusive. The receptionists could only stare at him. With wide eyes, his aura was so potent that every single employee at the door just lowered their heads, nobody daring to question him as he strolled right inside. His gaze then locked onto a man in the corner. The man's gaze flickered, shifting instantly to a look of pure flattery. But behind it was a poorly hidden malice. Our main character didn't recall the guy. Not at all. Instinctively, he activated his Clairvoyance Eye, the name. Kyle, a chuckle escaped him. He couldn't hold it back. This system really only dishes out garbage. What could he say? Just another male lead from an angsty novel. The system made all the supporting male characters do the dumbest things, while the male leads were just miserably tortured. He smirked. You seem to really hate me, huh? Kyle had no idea why, but he truly despised him deep down. Sir, this is our first meeting. Why would I hate you? He didn't care about the answer and just yawned. Probably, the system, seeing he had no intention to intervene for anyone, grew anxious. You have to pick one, but our guy just rested his chin on his hand, looking bored. Depends on my mood. Otherwise, I'll just call my assistant and have someone deal with it. The system was speechless. It had absolutely nothing to offer a guy who already had everything. Upstairs, the shareholders' meeting was over. Peter successfully acquired 51% of Richard's company. He was too lazy to go up, waiting in the reception room. Before long, Stella walked in. Her face swollen like a pig's head. When she arrived at work today, he was already in the reception room. Luckily for her, he hadn't noticed. Stella carefully walked toward her desk, but a coworker blocked her path. Stella, you're fired. You don't need to come in anymore. Hearing this, Stella froze. What? How is that possible? I don't believe it. Where is Richard? The receptionist glared at her like she was trash. Stop relying on boss Richard. The company has a new CCO. Your sugar daddy is useless. Get lost. In the past, using her connection with Richard, Stella had bullied half the office. So yeah, everyone hated her. Stella tried to force her way inside, but 2 security guards blocked her. After losing her backing and seeing Richard get beaten down twice, her mental state was on the brink of collapse. Her face twisted as she screamed, I don't believe you. You're lying to me. I want to see Richard. Just then, Peter and the others came out of their meeting. Seeing Stella making a scene, another shareholder barked, drag this crazy woman out. Don't get in Mr. Peter's way. This was the new CEO. Making a racket now was highly inappropriate. Richard stepped out and announced to everyone that Peter was now the majority shareholder. Her ex-boyfriend was now her ultimate boss. The psychological whiplash drove Stella into a frenzy. He stepped out of the reception room, waving a hand lazily. Don't let this woman into the company ever again. Otherwise, I will seriously question the competence of your security team. The 2 guards gritted their teeth, grabbing Stella and throwing her straight out of the building. She fell face first into the dirt. Her makeup was a mess, ruined by tears. With swollen red cheeks, she looked absolutely pathetic. Utterly hideous. In the past, if Peter had seen Stella treated this way, he would have absolutely exploded. But now, looking at this scene, his heart didn't even stir. She was just dirty trash. He didn't want her anymore. Blake, however, was pleased with the guard's actions, narrowing his eyes. From now on, everyone's salary gets a 20% bump. Peter just looked helpless. Didn't you give me the shares? You're the one calling the shots now. It wasn't until they left the company, got into the luxury car, and drove away that Stella finally snapped out of her daze on the ground. Seeing Richard about to leave, she scrambled right over and hugged his leg, tears welling in her eyes. Richard, you can't do this to me. I have nothing left, but Richard wouldn't waste another second. He spat in pure disgust. Shut your mouth. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in this mess. You better get out of my sight, or I'll beat you every time I see you. Stella grabbed his pants, completely broken. Don't go. My brother's girlfriend is the eldest daughter of the Oliver family. If you treat me like this, my brother will make you pay. Hearing this, Richard just laughed coldly and kicked her square in the chest. A piece of trash like you thinks you know the Oliver heiress. The engagement between the Blake and Oliver families is common knowledge in our circle. Olivia throwing away a rich, handsome god like Boss Blake for your brother. Anyone with a working brain knows that's impossible. He didn't believe a single word Stella said. Shaking her off, he prepared to flee the country immediately. But as his car drove along a mountainside, a massive explosion went off, and countless boulders came crashing down. Inside his own car, Blake's head of security, Rex, asked, Mr. Blake, back to the mansion or the company? His fingers glided across the laptop keyboard, mansion first. What's the situation with the Oliver family? Rex flashed his signature Dragon King smirk. After you cut them off, the Oliver family is on the verge of collapse. They probably won't last another month. Normally, a company of that size couldn't be taken down so fast. But unfortunately, while they were big, they had zero cash flow. Plus, with your explicit orders, no one would dare work with them. Blake frowned, not completely satisfied. That's still too long. Make them disappear within 2 weeks. Rex gave a dangerous smile. Yes, sir, leave it to me. His name, Rex, was no joke. Besides mastering martial arts and assassination, he was a flat-out genius in corporate warfare. Blake trusted him completely with these small matters. Just as he was about to close his eyes and rest, the system suddenly screamed inside his head. Host, I found an angst male lud. We found one, help him. He glanced out the window and saw this so-called male lud, a man in ragged clothes, with messy hair and a face caked in dirt. As he walked, his crippled right leg was obvious. Then his info screen appeared. Name Thomas, childhood sweetheart of the Lilly family's eldest daughter. Because of their different status, they never actually confessed their feelings. Later, Thomas saved Lily from drowning, but fell into a coma, and Kyle stole the credit. From that day on, Thomas lived a life of constant humiliation. Recently, Lily listened to Kyle and had Thomas thrown deep into the mountains to teach him a lesson. Thomas had been brutally tortured and barely escaped. His body was at its absolute limit. The mission said he'd die in 2 days, save the male lud. Blake simply signaled Rex. To stop the car, he looked out the window. Hey Rex, what do you think? Would a woman blindly trust someone, knowing her best friend and her childhood sweetheart despise each other? If she really loved him, would she just throw him into the deep mountains and abandon him? Rex just tilted his head, a disdainful little smirk forming on his face. Probably not. Besides, what kind of proper woman even has a guy best friend? A girl with a male bestie is pretty much wishing for her boyfriend's early death. How could she love him? She knows they hate each other, but still takes the other guy's side. That's just setting her boyfriend up to get killed. It's not complicated. Blake chuckled to himself. This country boy Rex was so damn blunt. If he weren't weaker than Blake, he'd probably be out here picking fights 3 times a day. Blake just patted his shoulder. People are greedy, you know. They want this, then that, and then they want everything. Luckily, I'm in a good mood. If Thomas gives me a satisfying answer, I don't mind lending a hand. With that, Rex moved. He stepped out and dragged Thomas right over. Your boss Blake, Thomas stammered. He had followed Lily enough to recognize Blake. Why are you looking for me? Did Lily send you? That question made Blake laugh out loud. Lily sent me, that's a new one. Don't even say her name, even if you combined all the so-called geniuses in her family. They wouldn't be worthy enough to even tie my shoes. Absolute contempt. Thomas didn't get the joke, but he knew this had nothing to do with Lily. He forced a smile, but the movement cracked the scars on his lips, drawing blood. Rex calmly handed him a tissue. Wipe that yourself, don't dirty the boss's car. Thomas coughed hard, knowing full well he didn't have much time left to live. The torture and illness would kill him within days. Mr. Blake, what do you want from me? Blake lit a cigarette, gently blowing a smoke ring. I have a question for you. If I gave you the chance for revenge, how would you deal with Lily and Kyle? Rex smirked as the car began to roll forward. He knew his boss was about to get involved. Whatever Thomas had suffered, this was about to get fun. It all came down to this. It all depended on Thomas giving the right answer. At first, Thomas just stared blankly. Then a storm of emotion flooded his eyes, finally hardening into one thing. Pure, unadulterated hatred. I want them to suffer everything that I suffered. I want them to beg me for death. Now that was an answer Blake was satisfied with. If Thomas had wanted to wish them happiness, Blake would have kicked him out of the car. He'd have let him rot right there. Instead, he simply pressed a button on the center console. From a hidden panel in the door, several silver needles instantly popped out. Without even a glance, Blake snatched them and plunged them into the major acupoints. All over Thomas's body, the system instantly shrieked in absolute horror. Are you kidding me? Is that how you use the 9 deaths resurrection needles? You're supposed to. Find a quiet room, lay him down, and concentrate. It's a legendary lost ancient technique. You didn't even look before you stabbed him. The system had seen plenty in its time. But it had never, ever seen a host quite like this one, in just a few breaths. Color visibly began returning to Thomas's pale face. He'd been tortured for so long. In those mountains that he'd only eaten leftovers, stomped on by guards. That or literal dog food. His stomach was completely ruined. Blake had just saved his life. His life right there, but a sudden wave of intense dizziness washed over him. Thomas grabbed the seat to steady himself, but the sudden movement ripped open the bandages wrapped around his body. The guards who tortured him had been careful. Fearing they'd get caught, they avoided his face, focusing entirely on areas hidden by his clothes, beating him half to death. Thomas looked absolutely horrific. But thanks to Blake's treatment, he was recovering surprisingly well. He had no choice but to believe Blake was really helping him. Mr. Blake, thank you. From now on, my life is yours. He was also curious just how Blake was going to get him justice. To his utter astonishment, Rex just drove the car straight to the police station. Thomas stared at the glowing blue sign, scratching his head. Mr. Blake Blake just slapped the back of his head. What Mr. Blake? If you're in trouble, call the cops. Didn't you know that? Illegal imprisonment. Torture, abuse, that's enough to put those bastards away for years. Did you really think this world has no laws? A few hired thugs pulling something this blatantly illegal. They're basically begging for a death sentence. And because Thomas's wounds were so horrific. And the police also found human hair and filth in his stomach, his right leg shattered. And the words dirty dog burned into his left leg with cigarettes. The officers couldn't believe a man could survive something like this if they hadn't seen it themselves. The witnesses, the evidence, it was all there. All that was left was to make the arrests. When Thomas finally walked out of the station, he was still completely dazed. Even the system was stunned. Your medical skills are insane. You could have completely healed him. Why only heal him halfway? If he's not totally recovered, the mission isn't complete. Don't you want the rewards? Blake just smiled faintly. It's nothing. I suddenly felt like conducting a fun little experiment. To truly kill someone, you first destroy their mind. Seeing the guilt of the heartless is boring, but exposing the ugly truth of human nature. Now that's entertainment. The system went silent. Experiment? What experiment? Just finish the mission first. Blake flicked his ash, too lazy to explain. None of your business, just healing him is too boring. We have to make his tormentors suffer 100 times more. Now that's what I call real revenge. According to the system, this world was a fusion of different angsty novels, with multiple male leads. Blake figured he might as well have some fun. That very day, the three guards were locked up, but the masterminds, Lily and Kyle, were still free. The guards took all the blame, claiming they acted alone. The Lily family had immense power, so slipping through the cracks of the law was basically child's play. After leaving the police station, Lily's face was thunderous. Investigate this. Find out where that bastard Thomas is hiding. I told them to teach him a lesson, not beat him half to death. And he dared to call the cops. Does he not know I'm about to marry him? He has the nerve to defy me. 5 minutes later, her phone rang. Miss, we found him. He's at the Royal Dragon courtyard in the Bright Moon estate. Lily was suspicious of how fast her subordinates suddenly were, but she didn't care. She just grabbed Kyle and raced over to the courtyard. A Rolls-Royce pulled up to the gates. They got out. Blake quickly spotted Thomas, who sat quietly in a corner, staring right at him. Dead eyes, Kyle noticed him too, his gaze flashing with disdain. So this is Blake helping a loser like Thomas. He's clearly blind. Kyle had heard Lily mention Blake's name before. Decisive, ruthless, a visionary, and utterly venomous. Plus, possessing unparalleled beauty, the man's face was indeed indescribably perfect. A shame he's a man, Kyle thought. Whatever, I just need Lily. Lily then walked to the gate, glaring coldly at Blake. Mr. Blake, I don't know how I've offended you, but why back my fiancé and call the authorities? In her mind, she had done absolutely nothing wrong. Thomas would never have called the police. Blake had to be behind it. While her family couldn't quite match the Blake family's status, they weren't that far behind. She felt justified and was determined to make him apologize. Seeing the main players arrive, Blake snapped his fingers. Rex expertly dragged Thomas straight to the gate. Lily didn't understand the move. Not at first, but Kyle's face turned pale with horror. He opened his mouth, but one look from Rex scared him silent. At Blake's command, Thomas ripped his shirt open, revealing the dense, horrific scars hidden beneath. Lily frowned. Thomas's eyes held none of their old gentleness, only pure disgust and an endless hatred. What are you here for? Thomas growled. Haven't you tortured me enough? Want to throw me back in there? Hearing his words, Lily felt a brief pang of heartache, which quickly turned to annoyance. What nonsense are you talking about? I told the guards to take you away and teach you a lesson, to make you behave. I never ordered them to torture you. Stop causing a scene. You acting like this is just exhausting. Thomas just laughed coldly, tearing his shirt open wider. On his chest alone, there were dozens of cigarette burns. Crisscrossing cuts made it look like he'd been mauled by some wild animal, raw flesh and blood exposed. Lily's face completely fell. She stood there frozen, staring in total disbelief. Trembling, she reached out a hand to touch him, but pulled back as if she'd seen the most horrifying thing imaginable. How did this happen? I didn't tell them to do this. Thomas gritted his teeth. What, did I not beg you? You said to teach me a good lesson. As long as I didn't die, anything goes. Have you forgotten? When I was first locked up, I called you for help right before they took my phone, but you hung up immediately. Do you know how I survived this last month? All thanks to you, one sentence from you, and I lived a life worse than a dog's. Tears suddenly appeared in Lily's cold eyes. She shook her head, denying it all frantically. No, that's not true. I didn't know. I didn't know it would get this bad. Thomas pointed at Kyle standing beside her, his eyes filled with utter despair. You put him in charge of taking me to the mountains. Couldn't you guess what my fate would be? He was certain Lily knew exactly how he would be treated. Lily whipped her head around, staring at Kyle with a chilling glare he had never seen before. Kyle, did you do this? Kyle didn't dare to admit a thing. As they argued, a figure flashed by like lightning. Kyle's body flew through the air like a broken doll. Blake stood at the gate, enough talk. To do something, just do it. Thomas looks at Blake, his eyes filled with deep admiration. The thrill of revenge was practically radiating from him. Blake lights a cigarette, taking a long drag. Hurry up, don't waste time. If you beat him to death, I'll take the fall. Lily looks at the beaten Kyle, her expression unreadable. Mr. Blake, you hit my person right in front of me. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Blake just cleans his ear with a pinky. Yeah, it's a bit inappropriate, so just swallow it and deal with it. Getting Blake's nod, Thomas marches forward, grabbing a baseball bat from Rex and swinging it viciously down on Kyle. After just 1 month, all those vows of eternal love have been completely shattered. Kyle, his ribs already broken by Blake's kick, lies on the floor, totally unable to resist. Lily's eyes redden as she tries to pull Thomas back. Thomas, what are you doing? But Thomas doesn't even spare her a glance. He shoves her away and delivers several hard slaps right across her face. Where were you when I was being tortured? Now that I'm beating your lover, your heart aches. Lily is trembling with rage. I told you I didn't know. I will investigate this. No matter who did this, I won't let them go. After all, you are my fiancée. Blake claps his hands from the sidelines, mocking her logic. Bravo, bravo. You almost got your fiancé killed, and you still want to marry him. May I ask how a brain completely made of 99-carat, pure gutter sludge even operates? Blake seriously doubts if people in this universe have any common sense. How can such garbage just spew out of your mouth? Before Lily can retort, she screams for her guards. Are you blind? Stop him. But her 2 guards don't even get a chance to move before Rex knocks them out cold with 2 lightning-fast kicks. Boss, what should we do with this chick? Should we bag her up too? Rex asks. He couldn't care less who the Lily family is. Anyone who disrespects his boss is getting dealt with. Blake rubs his chin, looking at Lily with mock seriousness. Rex, don't talk nonsense. This is the eldest daughter of the Lily family. How can we talk about murder in broad daylight? Rex just flashes his wicked smile and makes a throat-slitting gesture. So you mean we ship her overseas first? And then his menacing aura sends shivers down Lily's spine. But she comes from a powerful family and has countless connections. She genuinely doesn't believe Rex would dare to touch her. What angers her most is Thomas. In the past, he cherished her like a precious treasure, afraid she'd break or melt. He couldn't even bear to lay a single finger on her, let alone hit her. Thomas, you actually hit me. I told you I didn't know. I will give you a proper explanation. What is the meaning of this? Do you not even trust me anymore? Thomas slaps her hand away, gritting his teeth while pointing at his scars. Trust you? I used to trust you, and look where that got me. You better pray I don't get the chance. Otherwise, I will make you taste every single thing I went through, bit by bit. The sheer hatred in Thomas's eyes makes Lily shudder. She realizes he genuinely wants to kill her. But remembering their past, Lily's eyes tear up as she tries to justify her actions. I didn't know. I really didn't know. Don't worry, I will avenge you. Whoever hurt you, I'll make them pay 100 times over. Blake takes a folder from a guard and tosses it right at Lily's face. Miss Lily, I'm sure you'll find this very interesting. She looks at the contents, and her already sour expression immediately turns to thunder. The papers proved it. The person who saved her from drowning back then was not Kyle at all. She had put her blind faith in Kyle, thinking she owed him her entire life. Had she known Thomas was her true savior, none of this would have ever happened. Thinking of all the ways she'd hurt Thomas by trusting Kyle, Lily felt 1,000 daggers twisting in her heart. The agony was overwhelming. How could this be? That animal actually lied to me. Her 8-centimeter stiletto heel slammed down hard right between Kyle's legs. Kyle's scream was even more brutal than before. Lily turned back to Thomas, her face instantly filled with crushing guilt. She reached out to take his hand. Thomas, I am so sorry. It's all my fault for mistaking you. Believe me, from now on, I will make it all up to you. Thomas didn't even hesitate, dodging her touch. Make it up to me. How exactly do you plan to make up for these scars? Are you willing to do what I did? Be raised like a dog for a month. If you are, then I might just forgive your past mistakes. Compared to everything she had done to him, this condition was unbelievably merciful. Time and again, Kyle had framed him, and time again, Lily believed every lie. Thomas had wanted to leave her so many times, but the Lily family's power was just too great. She refused to let him leave, even insisting on marrying him. Watching them argue, Blake simply patted Rex's shoulder. Want to make a bet? Rex had a bad feeling about this. Bet on what, boss? Blake thought for a moment and held up one finger. I bet 1 year of your salary. Rex's face instantly soured. Boss, stop joking around. Let's just play for fun. Worst case, I'll be your free bodyguard for another year. Not like I have a choice anyway. Seeing Lily weeping so desperately, she looked like she would die for Thomas right there. Tell you what, I won't take advantage. I bet she won't agree to Thomas's request. Rex really wanted to say he thought she would refuse too, but Blake beat him to it. Fine, then I bet she will agree, he thought to himself. The boss could have just forced him to work for free, but he gave him a fair bet. My boss is truly a kind man. Lily looked at Thomas, her eyes full of sorrowful pleading. I was wrong before. I'll prove that you've always been the one I love most. Everything you suffered, I'll make Kyle pay it back. Thomas looked at the woman he grew up with. He realized he'd never truly known her at all. The guilt on her face just made him sick. Is that so? Then as long as you leave with me, I won't pursue this. Boss Blake owns a property overseas. Are you willing to live on an island with me? Hearing this, Lily subconsciously backed away 2 steps. She glanced at Thomas, then over at Blake. She didn't think Thomas would actually harm her, but Blake made her extremely wary. She did not want to leave with Thomas. And with that, Thomas's heart turned to ash. He didn't look at her again. The bat in his hand swung down viciously on Kyle's spine. A sharp crack echoed through the room. Kyle passed out cold on the spot. Get lost, Thomas growled. Panicked, Lily scrambled into her car and sped back to the Lily family estate. Rex watched her car vanish and couldn't stop himself from swearing. Damn it, that wretched girl just cost me another year of unpaid work. Blake pulled a card from his jacket, tossing it over to Thomas. Those guys are locked up tight. If you want, you can go in and have some fun with them. They aren't getting out. Thomas took the card and thanked him. He was about to ask about Lily, but quickly swallowed his words. If he'd only paid closer attention, he would have noticed that the moment Lily left, Rex had vanished too. The system, seeing its host had actually messed with Lily, was filled with outrage. Host Thomas and Lily are the male and female leads. They're in love. They love each other deeply. If you just healed Thomas, they could have lived happily. Ever after, you overdid the mission, Rex just scoffed. Love each other deeply. If she really loved him, she wouldn't have locked him away in the mountains. If I complete all your missions and then another system suddenly appears, and I decide to give all your rewards to that one, but tell you that the system I admire most is still you, would you believe me? The system was left completely speechless. The very thought of that scenario made it furious, but host Lily was tricked. She deeply loves the male lied. She's willing to do anything for him. Rex flicked his cigarette ash, a deeper smile spreading on his face. Looked like his guess was spot on. You systems are all just mass-produced, plus when I complete missions. You must get some kind of reward too, but whether there's another system. In this world, that's still a question. If it was true love, then why? Didn't she agree to go overseas with him just now? You don't understand humans. Talking to a brainless system like you is a total waste of time. The system wanted to explain more, but realized he couldn't hear it anymore. Oh my God. The host had blocked it again. It remembered the manual saying systems could be the ones to cut contact with hosts, so why was it completely reversed with him? At that exact moment, a Lamborghini sped right past Lily's car, carrying the Oliver parents. They'd been driven to the brink of insanity over the past 2 days. In just one day, dozens of partners had canceled their contracts. They would rather pay enormous penalties for breach of contract than stay connected to the Oliver family. Employees were quitting left and right, pushing the already crumbling company into a state of absolute despair. Oscar Oliver had called old friends, hoping for help, but the people at the top were all clever foxes. Once they knew it was a fight between him and the Olivers, everyone chose to side with him. Backed into a corner, Oscar had no choice but to apologize in person. Getting out of the car, they spotted him sunbathing right in the middle of the courtyard. They tried to enter but were immediately stopped by the guards, no matter what, the Blake and Oliver. Families have years of friendship. Please show mercy and leave us some way out. Are you really going to force this old man to get on his knees and beg before you'll forgive Olivia? Fiona quickly tugged on Oscar's sleeve, signaling wildly with her eyes. What are you doing? No matter what Olivia did, little Blake would never make you kneel. Rex simply laughed, waving his hand casually. Sure, go on and kneel then. Hearing this, Oscar hesitated, a flicker of hope appearing in his eyes. If I kneel, will you spare my company? Fiona yanked him back, glaring fiercely at Rex. You little animal, we are your elders. How dare you speak to us like that? But he just smirked, kneel or don't kneel. It's up to you. Fiona wanted to keep arguing, but Oscar leaned in close to her ear and muttered something that shut her up instantly. If we make him angrier, the company is going bankrupt. You can forget about buying those luxury goods. You love ever again. Hearing the word bankrupt, Fiona calmed right down. Right there in front of everyone, Oscar dropped to his knees at the gate. Little Blake, please. He begged Blake to spare his company for the old man's sake, but Blake just glanced at their car. He found Oscar's pathetic little circus act amusing. You misunderstood. I never promised to spare your company. Besides, your business is failing. Bankruptcy is inevitable. Coming to me changes nothing. I can't help you. Oscar looked completely thunderstruck. He pointed a trembling finger at Blake, but couldn't even form a word. Losing all interest, Blake waved his hand. All right, get this eyesore out of here. So dirty, he wouldn't have pulled a trick like that at 10 years old. The guards complied, dragging the two of them out. Honestly, if Blake hadn't wanted to see them, they never would have gotten near the courtyard in the first place. Seeing dozens of missed calls on his phone, he sent the video he just recorded to a specific contact. That same morning, Olivia noticed something was off with her supplementary credit card. While eating breakfast on a yacht, she swiped her card and then casually checked the balance. Since her engagement to Blake, her credit limit had been practically infinite, but for some reason, she felt an urge to check it today. The balance read $500. She thought her eyes were playing tricks. She frantically checked her other cards, only to find them all frozen. Just then, Silas walked out, noticing her panic. Suspicious but wearing a gentle smile, he asked, "What's wrong, Olivia? Is something the matter? Or is Boss Blake giving you trouble again?" At the mention of Blake's name, Olivia's face darkened instantly. Silas smiled faintly, continuing to play the caring boyfriend. "Why don't we go back? Let's stop playing around here before Boss Blake gets angrier at you." Olivia forced a smile, brushing off the topic, but her resentment for Blake only grew. Does that bastard think doing this will force me to bow my head? She couldn't believe that, as the eldest daughter of Harbor City's top family, she couldn't make a few measly bucks. So she immediately called her close friends, but as soon as the calls connected, she got a dial tone. They hung up. Disbelieving, she called several more, but the result was the same. Everyone hung up on her as fast as humanly possible. A terrible premonition bloomed in Olivia's heart. In high society, when this happens, there are only two possibilities. One, your family is bankrupt and everyone fears you'll ask for money. Two, you offended someone untouchable, meaning bankruptcy isn't far off. Impossible. How could this be happening? Right then, she got a text from an unknown number. "Miss Oliver, you wouldn't want this video to go viral, would you?" Looking at the video clip, her first thought was that it had to be a deepfake. But no matter how hard she looked, she found no trace of editing. When she tried to call or text the number, there was no response. Now in a full-blown panic, she frantically called her dad. "Dad, what's going on? What the hell did Blake do?" Fiona, having just lost face and been mocked by Blake, was absolutely furious. Seeing Olivia's call, she snatched the phone and wailed, "Daughter, come home quickly. If you don't come back, Blake is going to torture your mother to death. What, he dared to treat you guys like that? That guy has gone too far. I'll come back right now. I'll make him fire those guards and force him to kneel and apologize to you, Mom." Hearing this exchange between mother and daughter, Oscar couldn't even be bothered to speak. Blake's absolute. His ruthlessness proved there was no chance of reconciliation with Blake. Olivia, he finally realized just how utterly brainless his wife and daughter were. Fire the guards, kneel and apologize. What kind of fantasy were they living in? He snatched the phone back, roaring at Olivia to get her ass home immediately. If she didn't come back, she could just die out there. Shocked by her father's sudden fury, Olivia went pale. But thinking about her family's dire situation, even if it was Blake's fault, she was still involved. But she had no clue how to explain her current problem. How could she admit she didn't even have the money for a ticket home? Problem was, anyone she could borrow from was ignoring her. With no other choice, Olivia confessed everything. Oscar just ground his teeth. He had left her travel money, hadn't he? Even if it wasn't much, it was enough to get back from Antarctica. Then, Olivia explained what happened with Stella's. Hearing this, Oscar nearly passed out. He gripped the phone so hard his hand began to shake. Fine, he'd transfer the money. She just had to get back here. This daughter of his was dumber than he could have possibly imagined. He couldn't be bothered to scold her any longer, but hearing Peter's name sparked a new idea. Fiona asked anxiously what they were supposed to do now. That little animal wanted to drive them into a corner. Oscar couldn't hold it in. He slapped her hard across the face. It was all her fault for raising such a great daughter. She couldn't even wait a few more days. No, she had to dump him on the exact day they were supposed to register their marriage. Blake was already arrogant. And then that idiot daughter of his dared to give him attitude. That marriage license was something they had practically begged for. If they hadn't, the Blake family would just be on vacation, not getting married. Fiona collapsed, staring blankly up at Oscar. Only when he stormed upstairs, slamming the study door, did she finally cradle her cheek, picking up a cup and throwing it at the stairs, screaming like a madwoman. "He hit me." Fine, just fine. Now he actually dared to hit her. She charged upstairs, but the study door was locked up tight. Oscar couldn't be bothered with this crazy woman. He realized that his wife and daughter would just keep being massive liabilities. He had to rely on himself and himself alone. If Blake refused to show mercy, then Blake shouldn't blame him for playing dirty. Oscar hadn't come just to beg for forgiveness today. A decision had been made. He immediately sent people to start working. 30 seconds later, Blake got a call. Listening to Rex's report, he wasn't surprised one bit. Lazily shifting his posture, Blake said if Oscar wanted to jump, then let him jump. The higher he climbs, the harder he will fall. He hoped the Oliver family could last at least 3 days, otherwise things would get too boring. As for Lily, he'd go and check on her later. The people Oscar thought were his were actually all on Blake's payroll. Oscar thought his plan was foolproof, completely under the radar, but pulling it off depended entirely on one thing: whether or not Blake gave him the chance. 30 minutes later, Rex and Blake arrived deep in the mountains east of Harbor City. Thomas was at the gate, waving at Blake from a distance. The moment the door opened, a figure lunged straight at him. It was a woman, her face covered in blood and filth. Instinctively, Blake delivered a clean roundhouse kick that sent her flying backwards. "What the hell is that ugly thing?" The woman went flying, only to be kicked by someone else, rolling through the dirt. A small figure in black leather stepped out, planting a boot on the woman's face. She waved dismissively to the guards. "Keep an eye on her. Don't let her be an eyesore." As guards dragged the woman away, Violet walked up and tugged on his sleeve. The guards coughed, carefully reminding Rex, boss, the person inside. It is Lily. She was brought here and couldn't escape. She tried a few times. Finally, Miss Violet gave her a chance to fight one-on-one when Lily saw him appear. She glared, suddenly nervous and restless. Blake, you dare touch me. Aren't you afraid our families will go to war? But Blake paid her no attention. Not one bit. Go to war. Does the Lily family even have the right? Just then Thomas walked out from inside. He clearly hadn't expected Blake to move against Lily. And without the slightest hesitation either, it seemed this boss Blake's power was far greater than he had ever imagined. Mr. Blake, I have a favor to ask. Blake casually pulled out a cigarette and lit it. No problem, speak. Thomas waved his hand. From an adjacent room, 3 timid women walked out. They were around 40, wearing tattered clothes and smelling sour. Mr. Blake, I want them to help me with something. I plan to pay them a few $100,000 for their trouble and maybe arrange a place for them. These 3 women. They were beggars Rex had found for him. Blake thought he was going to ask for something big. Didn't I tell you, the money in that card is yours to use however you want. You don't need to report such trivial things to me. Lily felt a sudden chill. An ominous feeling washed over her. She struggled frantically, trying to beg Thomas. Thomas, what are you doing? We were childhood sweethearts. Do you really have the heart to treat me like this? Thomas just laughed, a bitter sound. Veins popped on his forehead. His voice came out deep and hoarse. Childhood sweethearts, so you actually remember that. Then why did you treat me like that? For Kyle, finding herself in grave danger, Lily knew she wouldn't escape her fate. But even then, her pride was still on the line. I told you, he tricked me. Why won't you forgive me? I wanted to marry you. Thomas remembered it all. How Lily used to say she loved him while always favoring Kyle. Letting Kyle frame him again and again, he gritted his teeth, waving the 3 women over. You 3 entertain the eldest daughter of the Lily family well, for 1 month. As long as you don't kill her, you can play with her however you want. The 3 women exchanged glances. Play however we want, you won't change your mind. Later, right, sir. Thomas gritted his teeth, his voice filled with pure malice. I won't. Doesn't she admire dogs? 1 month from now, I want to see her just as obedient as a dog. Lily tried to say more, but the guards quickly stuffed a rag in her mouth. Thomas knelt down, stroking her face. Do you know how I lived? That month, the guards fed me their leftovers, but only after the dogs ate. When there was no food, I had to chew leaves and gnaw on tree bark. I even drank milk tea made from their hair, if I woke up late or if they were mad. They beat me with sticks. Have you ever tasted human waste? Have you ever had your wounds sliced open, smeared with honey, and then covered in ants? Lily shook her head wildly, her eyes wide with terror, her entire body trembling. Uncontrollably, she would rather die than endure this kind of inhumane torture. But Thomas simply comforted her. Don't worry, see, you arranged for all this. 3 male guards, so he wouldn't let men hurt her either. He had specifically chosen people of the same gender for her. Lily's once exquisite face was now drenched in tears mixed with grime. She admitted she wronged Thomas, but she absolutely refused to pay for it this way. Having stated his intentions, Thomas turned around and dropped to his knees before the protagonist. Without a word, he kowtowed 3 times. Mr. Blake, from today onward, my life belongs to you. He didn't know why this man helped him, but he knew what his life was worth now. The money on the card he was given was enough to buy his life countless times over. The only thing he could give back was his life. Rex pulled him up. Cut the loyalty speeches. The boss doesn't like this stuff. Just do your job well from now on. Even Rex couldn't understand how someone like Thomas could help his boss. And since they'd made a move, why not just finish her off? Why keep her alive? Wasn't that just asking for trouble? But his boss never made a losing deal. He must have his own plans. Besides, he could tell Thomas would be a loyal subordinate. Rex never misjudged people, except for his own boss. Just as they were about to leave, Violet walked up to Lily with a blank expression. She raised her foot and stomped on Lily's right leg. A crisp snap echoed. Violet continued, stomping and breaking the bones in Lily's left arm. Then she calmly walked back. While Lily couldn't beat Violet, her combat skills weren't terrible. The three women were just ordinary people and might not have overpowered her. So Violet crippled her first, ensuring she couldn't escape. Thomas stood there, trembling as he watched. When the three guards had tortured him, they'd at least shown some emotion. Be it excitement or anger, when humans commit brutal acts, there is usually emotion involved, but Violet was different. Her movements were incredibly practiced, like she had done this thousands of times. The entire time, her face didn't change. Her eyes didn't even blink. She was as calm as if she were drinking a glass of water. In his head, the system notification rang. Congratulations to the host for completing the mission. You have received an upgraded version of the Clairvoyance Eye. He raised an eyebrow. Only then did he realize the original mission, Heal Thomas, had changed to Thomas's Revenge. The system sounded resigned. This mission was centered on the male lead, Thomas. So whether it was a happy ending or revenge, it counts as complete. But normally, Thomas would never do this. Even if he wanted revenge, he wouldn't have the power to touch Lily. The system paused, seeing him close his eyes, pretending to sleep. It hesitated before asking cautiously, "Host, why did you help Thomas take revenge on Lily? Was it really just out of a sense of justice?" He thought about it, then asked back, "No particular reason. I'd have to deal with them sooner or later anyway. Might as well do it now." "Let me guess, Lily is Silas's biological sister, right?" Hearing this, the system's voice trembled. "Host, how did you know?" It clearly remembered it hadn't let that slip, nor had it mentioned the plot of this world. The main character was already used to the system's shock. The Lily family has 9 daughters and 1 son. According to you, this is a world of angst novels. Doesn't that perfectly fit the fake versus true young master trope? Silas is the strongest supporting character. He's going to need a background to match. And thinking it over, the Lily family was the only real option. The system went silent. Stunned by his logic, unable to retort, this host is terrifyingly smart. He's on the board. But he sees the entire game. Our main character just ignored the system's praise. He had, of course, already considered this. What made him certain was a recent investigation. He'd ordered a deep dive into Silas, knowing he wasn't the biological son. He connected that fact to a scandal from 2 years ago involving the Lily family. One where their youngest son was rumored to have been adopted, uncovering Silas's true identity. That was child's play, and knowing the truth sparked a flicker of interest in him. Just a little, because things have to be interesting to be fun. This way, the game will last. Otherwise, a single call to his subordinates to wipe them out completely. That would be way too boring. Getting a system is rare. He had to spice things up. He wanted to see just what kind of attitude Silas would have toward Olivia. The fallen eldest daughter, once her family goes bankrupt and she's drowning in debt. All this debt, Rex looked over at him strangely. The boss wasn't usually like this. Not throwing Olivia and Silas into the sea on day 1 was already a huge mercy. But now he's leaving them hanging. Rex wondered if psychological torture was really that fun. Our MC didn't explain, mainly because the system had just given him a few new ideas. And just as he predicted, Olivia was finally about to make her move. The moment he got out of the mountains, a subordinate reported, "Mr. Blake. A few major influencers are spreading videos online about what just happened. Should we handle it?" He simply glanced at Rex, signaling him to take control. The videos these influencers released showed him breaking the engagement. It showed him bankrupting the Oliver family and even making the 2 elders kneel. Making them beg in public, but every single video deliberately cropped his face out. People naturally side with the weak, especially when they're being fed a story. And the story they released was designed to make him the villain. It left out all the awful things Olivia and her family had actually done. The Oliver family was painted as a group of pure victims. the internet went wild. The comments exploded. The Blake Corp is trash. I thought their benefits were good. Wanted to apply, forget it now. Anyone can have that garbage company, just as planned. With a boss like that, the company has no future. Totally a shady business. Poor Mr. Oliver, so old, yet forced to kneel to a junior, in my opinion. This CEO Blake definitely has a mistress and doesn't want to marry his childhood love. So he's targeting her family. Now and then, a few rational voices popped up. But they were quickly drowned out, bullied by the mob until they just went silent. Idiots exist every year, but in this angsty novel world, there seemed to be more. Brainless netizens only knew how to blindly pity the weak and join the angry mob. For some people, the truth doesn't matter. Life is hard and they need a release. They just wanted a punching bag to vent all their pent-up anger, seeing the Blake Corporation scandal explode. Fiona's bad mood instantly improved. That little animal dared to treat us like that. This is karma. But Oscar, seeing this from his study, watching everything go so smoothly, didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he frowned. Why isn't there any pushback? The smoother the plan went, the more uneasy he felt. He grew uneasy. Damn it, what is that kid plotting? Meanwhile, Blake returned to the office. Back at the mansion, a call came in from Peter. Stella's causing a scene. You need me. Blake just laughed coldly, his voice lazy. Old Pete, you know me better than that. Why would I ever worry about a nobody like her? Hearing that, Peter simply hummed. He agreed and then hung up, knowing Stella couldn't actually affect his friend. Still, Peter was the one who started this mess, so he felt a little bit guilty. It's like they say, a dung beetle won't hurt you, but it will definitely disgust you. By the time Blake and Rex arrived, Stella was throwing an absolute tantrum. A complete banshee right at the base of the Blake Corp building, and she came prepared. She had light makeup on, wearing a dress that revealed a few old scars. With that fragile, pitiful look and a few tears, the online crowd couldn't help it. They felt sorry for her. Cameras swarmed from every angle, flashes firing off. She sobbed as she began recounting her side of the story. Recently, I just went on a business trip with my boss. My boyfriend used it as an excuse to break up with me. Then CEO Blake hired someone to come and beat me half to death in a hotel. The scars all over my body are the proof, and with that, she showed them off. Here's the thing though, Blake had shown up so fast that day, she'd only been in the room for less than 10 minutes. She was relying on that impossibly short time frame. She tried to prove that while she was with Richard, nothing could have possibly happened. I mean, what can you do in just a few minutes? Stella cried tragically. She collapsed dramatically to the ground, her dark hair hiding the venom in her eyes. Her gaze was locked on the Blake building. She hated him, absolutely hated him. She never imagined he was the legendary CEO of Blake Corporation, a man revered by all of Harbor City. If she had known Peter was friends with a titan like him, she never would have wasted her time on Richard. I don't know if you rich people like pretending to be poor to date normal girls like us, but I won't bother Peter anymore. Please, just stop sending people to threaten my old parents. They can't take it. 1,000 wrongs, 10,000 wrongs, it's all my fault. If you're unhappy, just target me. Under her narrative, Stella was now a victim. She had become a poor, fragile, and innocent little flower in her version of events. Peter hid his wealth and tricked her. She worked hard, struggling to earn money, only to discover he was rich. Feeling deceived, she had no choice but to break up. This tragic fairy tale resonated deeply with everyone watching the live stream. The CEO of Blake Corp is utter trash for this. Not only is his character garbage, he dumped his fiancée and ruined this self-reliant girl, right? I'm in Harbor City right now. I'm going to the Blake building to throw paint. Meanwhile, Blake and Rex just leaned against their car. They weren't in any hurry. Why step in? They were just watching the monkey show, waiting for 2 more guests. They chatted casually, so this was Oscar's brilliant plan, using the internet to smear him. Despicable, to ruin Blake, he'd even bought off a pawn like Stella. Rex just shrugged. He flashed his classic wicked smile. Looks like the old man from the Oliver family. Wants to use public opinion against you, then force you to stay tied to them. After all, once their company finally collapses, these brainless netizens are going to blame it all on you. Blake remained silent, watching the circus continue. Stella's tears were truly something else, coming on command as she wept pitifully. It was making countless guys online feel their hearts ache, and she was just about to model the firestorm, the cameras around her. Suddenly, they all swung towards him, behind them. A noble, mysterious aura radiated from his entire being, causing countless people to turn their heads. Seeing him, Stella visibly trembled slightly, but then she glanced at the cameras and her eyes flashed. She lunged instantly right at his feet, crying pathetically, "Mr. Blake, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Stop targeting me. I won't break up with Peter. My parents are terribly sick. My brother's uneducated. The whole family is counting on me to support them." But from an angle the cameras couldn't see, Stella was putting on a fragile act just for him. If she got lucky and caught his eye, she could become the next Mrs. Blake. But his reflexes were faster. He didn't give her a single chance to get close. "Don't touch me, I'm allergic to dog hair." Just that one cold sentence made Stella grind her teeth in fury. Blake always kept a low profile and rarely appeared in public. Outside high society, very few people knew what the CEO of Blake Corp actually looked like. The moment he appeared, the tone of the entire live stream changed instantly. People still thought Stella was a victim, but their attitudes softened. Is this the ruthless and wicked CEO Blake they'd heard about? He doesn't look like it at all. He is so young. Is he even 20? Yeah, this CEO doesn't seem like a bad guy at all. There must be some misunderstanding. Maybe someone's just jealous and trying to smear his name. And even if it is this handsome guy's fault, if you think about it, is Stella completely innocent? Reading the live comments, Stella felt even more wronged. Rex, standing behind him, scoffed. 10 cameras and not one is on me. Typical. Women only care about appearances. Back in his day, Rex was a heartthrob who drove countless girls crazy, famous across the entire underworld. Sadly, after meeting the boss, everything changed. Seeing him turn the tide, Stella tilted her shoulder just so, letting a strap slip down to reveal some horrific scars. The reporters swarmed him, hitting him with questions about the Oliver family and Stella. "Mr. Blake, is what Miss Stella claimed true? Did you use illegal methods to force her out of her company and harass her family? And as for you forcing others, making your future in-laws kneel and apologize, how do you explain that?" Before he could even answer, "And you are not ready for this," 2 men walked by watching a video on an iPad. And that video was accidentally caught by the cameras. The video's content was explicit, uncensored, unpixelated. Words can barely describe it. Let's just say 2 people were performing a certain horizontal tango, captured from multiple camera angles. The video proudly displayed the female lead's figure and passionate voice, vivid in every last detail. When the people on the live stream saw the video, the chat just exploded. "Oh my God, so spicy. Wait, that woman looks exactly like Stella. And I recognize that guy. That's the chairman of Rewrote Corporation. He's so old, how can Stella even take it? That's just disgusting." Stella, still kneeling on the ground, trying to get sympathy, heard the audio from that video and shot right up. When she saw the screen clearly, she froze solid. It was the video of her and Richard. It also had the audio of her trashing Peter, demanding designer bags, and eagerly agreeing to any game her sugar daddy suggested. It was all out in the open. As Stella lunged for the iPad, Rex was faster. Rex snatched it and slammed it right onto the ground for everyone to see. He roared, "What kind of video is this? Watching this in public, have you no shame?" Shame, but the 2 men who owned the iPad weren't mad. Instead, they bowed and apologized. "Our apologies, we weren't sharing it, we were just watching it ourselves." Rex shot back angrily. "Sharing this stuff is a crime, don't you know that? the two men just bowed, apologized again, and scurried off immediately. The whole scene, smooth, almost like it was rehearsed. Blake just smirked, not even trying to hide his satisfaction. Stella grabbed her head, feeling like she'd been thrown into a frozen abyss. She desperately covered her face, horrified of the cameras. It's all over, everything. Every single word she'd said, after her video leaked now, turned into daggers pointed right back at her own throat. Stella shook her head wildly. No, you don't understand. That video's a fake. If it spread, she was finished. She could just forget about ever showing her face in public again. Public opinion is a double-edged sword. It can lift you up or drown you. The internet's verdict reversed instantly. Because the video was crystal clear. And with a little push from his hired online influencers, the public felt totally played, and they immediately unleashed their fury on Stella. Seriously. She's caught with a sugar daddy and claims she was forced. The nerve on this woman. To do that and still show up here crying about it. Someone even testified, I'm Stella's neighbor. Her father is abusive, her mother's a gambler, and her brother. A total leech. I don't know about her family being broken, but from that video, she clearly wanted to get broken in by that old man. You gotta admit, the camera work in that video was better than some actual adult films. Stella looked like she wanted to attack Blake, but didn't dare. So she turned on the reporter who filmed the iPad. Why did you record that? It's fake. Delete it now, but the reporter's tone flipped, and he replied coldly, I'm only here to report facts. And nobody tolerates a cheater. The more he looked at Stella, the more disgusted he was. If not for the Oliver family's money, he never would have hyped her up in the first place. Oscar, who was watching the live stream the entire time, felt his chest tighten. But he quickly composed himself. Stella was only a pawn, so what if she was exposed and her reputation destroyed? It meant nothing to him. But then again, plenty of netizens were still disgusted that Blake forced the Oliver parents to kneel. Some said even if the Stella thing is a lie. Blake treating his future in-laws that way is crossing a line, right? If the Oliver's daughter really screwed over Boss Blake. The Olivers would have shut down these rumors a long time ago. Why would they let it spread? And this was exactly what Oscar was banking on. No matter what, Olivia and Silas's affair was a permanent stain on Blake. If he responded publicly, his reputation would take a hit. Oscar was just waiting for him to crack under the pressure. Once the story blew up, Blake Corp's stock would tank. But facing the reporter's questions, Blake just casually strolled into the company. Rex then raised a hand shot out, blocking the swarm of reporters. Any questions, you can ask me. Boss Blake is busy, so please don't waste his time, Rex announced as Stella stared. She stared blankly at him, having lost everything. It was all gone. Completely losing her mind, she charged forward. But she couldn't take more than just a few steps before officers slapped a pair of silver bracelets right onto her wrists. Miss Stella, you're suspected of severe defamation against another person, which caused serious consequences. Come with us. Staring at the handcuffs, Stella still couldn't grasp what was happening. What? Defamation? I did nothing. You have the wrong person, but the officers had obviously seen the live stream. The two guys who leaked that video would get a minor fine, at most. A slap on the wrist, Rex gave Stella a wicked grin. Miss Stella, don't forget to get that mental compensation ready for Boss Blake and also the reputation damage payment for the Blake Corporation. To deal with someone like Stella, a quick death was too merciful. Making her live like a beggar was the perfect punishment for her vanity. Poverty was worse than death. To truly kill a person, you shatter their mind. Rex had plenty of time for these little games. Despite Stella's screaming, her struggles, and her endless excuses, the two officers simply dragged her away. The law is for justice, not for pity. The reporters all exchanged glances. Normal journalists seeing this would have retreated, knowing how difficult Blake was to handle, but this group was different. They looked like they were from the Oliver family. But in reality, they worked for Blake. After Stella was gone, Rex pulled out a stack of photos and handed them straight to the reporters. Inside were photos of Olivia holding hands with Silas on a shopping trip. Pictures of them hugging and shots of them entering the same hotel room. Rex, with a voice full of fake emotion, told the story between Blake and Olivia. Honestly, it's no big deal, just a typical wealthy family marriage arrangement. You all understand. But my young master is a kind-hearted man, loyal to a fault. He has absolutely never messed around. If any netizens watching this live stream doubt me, go ahead and check. My young master has never once had a scandal, but inside, Rex felt deeply wronged. He was a legendary mercenary king, and here he was. Live on camera, spinning some sappy romance drama. His marksmanship was unparalleled in the entire underworld, yet he couldn't beat his boss. His martial arts were unmatched. He'd single-handedly wiped out an entire army. But even then, he still couldn't beat Blake. Rex sighed internally before continuing his act. We just never expected Miss Olivia to pull something like this. It truly crossed the young master's bottom line. As for Oliver Corp, that's just business competition. There was never any deliberate plot to target them. And the video of the two Oliver elders nailing, oh, that's real. But it was secretly arranged and filmed by Chairman Oscar himself to manipulate all of you. He wanted your sympathy to force my young master to help him. As he spoke, Rex's face filled with sorrow. My young master's life, it's just so tragic. The Oliver Corporation clearly dodges taxes, refuses to pay its workers, and builds shoddy projects that have cost countless workers their lives. And all these things have been hidden for years. Now that it's all exploding online, even though the young my master told me to be quiet, but I cannot swallow this anger. You can find this stuff online with a simple search. I have said my piece. Justice lives in the hearts of the people. A passionate speech, delivered with red, teary eyes. It was incredibly moving and vivid. Standing in his top-floor office looking down at Rex, Blake smiled bitterly and shook his head. This kid's acting needed work, way too dramatic, but he was quite satisfied. After a while, the system finally contacted him again. Host, opening cheat codes in an angst world is one thing, but you are not even trying to act normal. This is the 66th floor. You're not using binoculars, yet you can see exactly what's happening. Is that really okay? Blake was in a good mood, so he did not block it. Suddenly, the system shrieked with excitement. Host, I detect an angst male lead within a 100-meter radius. The system could only detect male leads within 100 meters. Hearing it ramble, Blake blocked it again. A male lead in some ordinary, face-slapping revenge story. Blocking the system's connection was the only reasonable thing to do, seeing Rex pull out that stack of photos. Oscar felt the entire world spin, a violent dizziness washing over him. That brat came prepared. Damn it, he underestimated that little animal again. It wasn't just old photos, there were also recent pictures of Olivia and Silas on the yacht. Does Blake have people on that yacht, too? Oscar immediately called his subordinates, telling them to get in touch with reporters and suppress the story. Quickly, the reporters were still surrounding Rex, asking about the Oliver Corp scandal, but Oscar knew he had been played. The plan he designed had been completely seen through by Blake. He slumped into his chair, drained of all his strength, muttering, "It's over. It is all over." He never expected Blake would dare make the affair public. Does this kid not care about his pride as a man? Blake was not blind to that issue. In the context of gender equality, this was a massive scandal. The woman would face moral condemnation, but the man would also be pointed at and mocked. But when you stand at the absolute pinnacle of power, it ceases to be a stain. It only proves that Olivia was the blind one. After watching Rex's show, Blake got back to work. This time, Oscar had paid those reporters to interview him. The reporters got paid and gained some fame. In Harbor City, not everyone had the right to interview Blake. Usually, they could only reach his department managers at the company. Interviewing the CEO of Blake Corp. A man as elusive as a dragon was something they would not even dare to dream about. The live stream quickly took the internet by storm. Initially, it was just the hype around Stella, since she was great at role-playing a maid. A sexy black cat. The neighbor's wife, and now this high-quality leaked video. It caused massive waves online. Shocking, the CEO of Blake Corp is the ultimate dream of every young woman. He had only shown his face for a few minutes, but thanks to his looks that captivated both men and women. His popularity instantly shot to the #1 trending spot. The hashtag about his looks quickly pushed another topic to the top. Shocking, the turbulent life of the Blake Corp CEO, his background born into. He was a prodigy from Harbor City's all-powerful Blake family. By age 3, he'd mastered the classics and was already skipping grades. He had a genius business mind at age 10 and never ever lost a single commercial battle, finishing all his studies by 12. Just a few simple lines were enough to make the internet explode. In short, a monster as a kid and an even bigger monster when he hit the business world. By the time he grew up, not a single person on Earth could challenge him. Yet despite all this success, there was not one romantic rumor about him online, a new post declared. From this day forward, Boss Blake is Harbor City's one true god. Meanwhile, on the other side, Stella paid her fine and was released from the station. But as she walked out, her mind was a total mess. For the next 2 days, it was a living nightmare. She was hounded by lawyers nonstop. Every single penny Peter ever spent on her was demanded back, every last cent. The $10,000 Oscar paid her to smear Blake Corp was nothing. She couldn't get a hold of Stella's, and her parents wanted nothing to do with her. Totally out of options, Stella hailed a cab and headed for Richard's place. If she couldn't survive, nobody else would. Since Richard had divorced his wife and was now stuck in a huge scandal, she figured she could latch onto him. Even if he sent people to scare her off, she had to squeeze some money out of the man. This was her last shot. But when Stella arrived, she was crushed. The new owners of the house were a young couple. She accidentally overheard them talking. "What terrible luck," one said. "We thought we got this place for a bargain." Who knew Richard would drop dead the very next day? Stella froze solid, a million thoughts firing through her brain, sending violent shivers down her spine. Richard was actually dead. To her, Richard had been this untouchable figure, and even he ended up like this. She didn't dare think about what kind of fate was waiting for her. No, that's wrong. Peter must still love me, she thought. Otherwise, why am I still alive? She stumbled away in a complete panic. Suddenly, bam, a car slammed into Stella, sending her flying. Inside the Oliver Corp building, employees were panicking. In just 2 days, one person after another resigned, making the crumbling company fall apart even faster. Oscar sat in his office, hand on the giant glass window, staring down at the crowds below. "Blake, you vicious little monster." He had sold out the entire Oliver family without a second thought. Completely unconcerned if his broken engagement with Olivia would affect Blake Corp's stock. In reality, his stock hadn't dropped at all. It had surged by 30%. In contrast, Oliver Corp's stock plummeted straight into the abyss. Filing for bankruptcy was now just a matter of time. It took only 2 days for this corporate giant that once ruled Harbor City to face its final collapse. When Oscar stepped out of his office, he noticed the employees giving him strange looks. He didn't think much of it, just assuming they were panicking about the company's imminent doom. The phone on his desk wouldn't stop ringing. Olivia was calling frantically. Oscar had no desire to answer. If not for that stupid girl, would he be in this mess? But finally he picked up. He didn't say a word. Olivia was silent, too. The father and daughter fell into a strange standoff. Olivia already knew what went down in Harbor City and understood her father's position. But just as Oscar was about to speak, the door flew open. Fiona, in a fiery red dress with a face like a thundercloud, stormed right in, leaving the door open as she started screaming at Oscar, "You old bastard. You kept another woman." Oscar froze in complete shock. What nonsense. Are you saying? Fiona stormed over, shoving the phone right into his face. If this wasn't leaked online, how long were you planning to hide this from me? Were you just waiting for me to die so you and that mistress could be together? Oscar quickly looked at the phone. The headline was shocking. Oliver Corp's chairman has 3 mistresses. One, a manager at Blake Corp, even owns a billion-dollar mansion. The mother of his illegitimate son spends millions every single month. And that's not all. The trending story exposed everything about the illegitimate son. His identity, his address, his entire past. An uneducated school bully who acted arrogant because of his father's money. Oscar looked like he'd been struck by lightning, collapsing weakly to his knees before Fiona. He was thinking far beyond her rage. If his illegitimate son was exposed online in such detail, he knew it meant his enemy was already moving in for the kill. Fiona just cried and screamed, grabbing his hair and shaking him like a rag doll. No wonder you always said that Olivia would marry into the Blake family and never need to run the company. It turns out you were clearing the way for that little bastard. And on the other end of the line, Olivia heard it all. Her mind went completely blank as she stared out at the icy Antarctic landscape from her yacht. The phone simply slipped from her grasp and clattered to the floor. Snapping back to reality, she quickly scooped it up. Dad, that news online is all fake, right? You would never do that, right? Because if what her mother said was true, her entire life was a lie. Oscar knelt on the floor, letting Fiona hit him. Even as his face was scratched and bleeding, he refused to resist. All he could think about was his son, and just then his phone buzzed. A text message. Boss Oliver, I didn't expect you to have such grand ambitions. Sneaking your illegitimate son into Blake Corp was quite a bold move. Too bad you failed at the final step. Meanwhile, Fiona clung to his leg, hitting and cursing him endlessly. The sounds of her parents fighting filled Olivia's ears. She just sat frozen on the bed. That's when Silas pushed the door open, rushing in. He had overheard everything. He immediately chose to play the role of the considerate comforter. Olivia, don't be sad. No matter what, I will always be by your side. Caught off guard, Olivia told Silas everything about her family's disaster. What am I supposed to do? The company is collapsing, and my dad has another son out there. Silas looked at her, his eyes deceptively gentle. Olivia, I will be with you. If the company is in trouble, we should go back right now. As long as we can get Boss Blake to stop being angry with you, the company can absolutely be saved. Comforted by his words, Olivia managed to regain a sliver of her composure. The moment she left the room, Silas punched the door hard. Damn it, this stupid girl is completely brainless. He never thought the Oliver family would last barely 2 days against him. He honestly thought Oliver Corp was strong enough to rival the Blake family. After all, they were a top-tier family in Harbor City. He thought latching onto Olivia meant a lifetime of luxury. Who knew they would collapse so fast? By now, Oliver Corp was a complete wreck. And as for our protagonist, he had finished his work and was now playing chess with Rex. Rex found it harder and harder to understand him. Boss, why not just get rid of Oscar's illegitimate kid? Leaving him alive is just leaving a hidden threat. Cut the weeds. But his philosophy was simple. Don't dig up the roots and they'll just grow back. Some might call that asking for trouble later, but he just didn't see it that way. In fact, he seemed to enjoy it. A chance for real trouble was a rare thing. He decided to let the game play out a little longer, if Olivia dared to scheme. Right under his nose, he would simply leave her with a very deep impression. The calculation was already done. Once her family goes bankrupt, Olivia will have nothing. Nothing but a single mansion left to her name. He wanted to see who'd get it. Would it be the illegitimate son or would it be Olivia? Rex watched him. A strange look on his face. This wasn't how the boss usually operated. In the past, he'd have thrown Olivia and Silas to the fishes on day one. Showing this much mercy was unheard of. Was it all a psychological game now? He offered no explanation. The truth was, the system in his head was at work. It was feeding him ideas. Just then, as the office door was closing, a figure flashed past. His clairvoyance eye activated instantly, locking onto the person outside. The man's name, Simon, secretly in love with Diana, who married someone else. She did it for money. Heartbroken, Simon married his college junior and had a daughter. His life was happy for a time, then he heard Diana was divorced and struggling. That's when Simon started abandoning his wife and child to take care of his old flame. One day, his daughter suffered a heart attack, but Simon abandoned his family once more. All of this just to treat Diana's scraped finger, and Diana, she was bribed. The Lilly family paid her to trick Simon into stealing Blake Corp's secrets. But 2 days later, the Lilly family's company was utterly crushed by Blake Corp. They went bankrupt, Simon's daughter dies, and his wife Laura divorces him. Simon is left to live a lonely life, and then a mission appears. Mission 1 helps Simon win back Laura's heart. Mission 2, help him get with Diana. Suddenly, Violet waved a hand in front of his face. "Young master, did you see something?"